Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Focus on Liberia. This has been called Super Tuesday because it is super tonight. We want to welcome all our viewers across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Focus on Liberia, we're going to be having a special press conference style interview with Councillor Tiawan Saye Gongloe, presidential hopeful for the 2023 elections. Councillor Gongloe will be interviewed by press people from various online diaspora platforms, starting with representing 2A radio and television network, Pastor Patient Blade. Pastor Patient, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis.
Also representing Abby Tyler Healthy Living. She's also the health contributor of Focus on Liberia. Mrs. Abigail Tyler. Abby, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Last and definitely not the least is Lady J, Jessica Jarrett, from representing Everything Liberia. Lady J, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis.
We also have the chairman of the Friends of Gongloe, Dr. Kamara, who is here tonight to introduce Councillor Gongloe. Dr. Kamara, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Mr. John.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe for the first ever press conference style interview in internet television. Again, I will want to welcome Dr. Kamara, who will introduce himself and also introduce our guest tonight. Dr. Kamara is all yours.
Good evening, and thank you to you, Mr. Jar, and your panelist of journalists. It is an honor for us to appear tonight on your show, and a distinct honor for me to be the one introducing Councillor Tiawan Saye Gongloe. As Mr. Jar correctly said, I am the Executive Director of Friends of Gongloe here in the diaspora, a non-profit organization that was formed without the involvement of Councillor Gongloe to support his aspirations of becoming the president of Liberia come 2023. Now, I have watched and listened to other speakers in the past as they introduced Councillor Gongloe for all his accolades that have been accomplished in life, his academic credentials, and his work in government, and his service to humanity as a poor man's lawyer. But tonight, I would like to take a slightly different direction. I want to introduce Councillor Gongloe to you and your viewers as the family man he is. Councillor Gongloe is married to his beautiful wife, Mrs. Sonny Kolako Gongloe, and they are blessed with 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Councillor Gongloe is a 1976 graduate of the St. Mary's High School in Cllr. He later on attended the University of Liberia, where he graduated with a business degree in 1981 and subsequently enrolled at the Louis Arthur Graham School of Law and graduated with a law degree in 1987. He has served 2 tours in government, first as Solicitor General and then as Minister of Labor. And he later on resigned that position because of policy differences. The councillor later on went on to serve as president of the Liberia Bar Association, an organization that he led and raised its standards to equal footing with the best bar associations in West Africa. Councillor Gongloe is currently in the United States of America as a guest of Friends of Gongloe Global to help him meet prominent Liberians here in the diaspora and spread his word of good governance, the need for good governance in Liberia. He will, during his over 2 month stay here in the United States, be visiting a couple of places. And I would just like to briefly say here to your audience that he will be visiting Fargo, North Dakota, between May the 29th and June the 5th. And June the 10th to the 14th, he will be in Minneapolis, Minnesota. June the 19th, Councillor Gongloe will be visiting Staten Island. On the 25th of June, Councillor Gongloe will be in Trenton, New Jersey. July the 2nd, he will be in Boston, Massachusetts. And July the 9th, he will have a major event in Washington, D.C. I want to encourage and invite all your listening audience to please attend any one of these functions that is near them and interact with Councillor Gongloe on some of his intentions and aspirations for our country, Liberia. On that note, I now have the highest honor of presenting to you, Mr. Jar, Councillor Tiawan Saye Gongloe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamara. Well done. I'm happy to be on your show tonight. I believe this is my second time being on Voice of Liberia. The last time I appeared was in Liberia. Now I'm in the United States. I'm in the United States to see and speak to the Liberian people here, because I've been told that there's an estimated population of over 500 Liberians in the United States, Liberians and people like Americans of Liberian origin. 500,000 is a significant number, because it is estimated that the population of Liberia is 5 million people. So we're talking about 10% of them living in the United States. It is not a population that can be ignored. The basic question is, why do I want to be president? All through my life, I've been an advocate, I've been a lawyer, I've been happy with that. But as someone who has been critical of the governance process in our country, I cannot sit back and just keep criticizing. I have criticized, I've made recommendations to various governments, I've served in the government, and I have demonstrated the type of transformation that I believe that our country needs to move forward. I serve as executive assistant to Dr. Sawyer from 1990 November to March 1994. It was while I was serving as executive assistant to Dr. Sawyer that I wrote the first draft of the code of conduct that he submitted to the ILA, the Interim Legislative Assembly. We had not had code of conduct before. That was a transformative action taken by me, and my boss, the president, endorsed it and sent it forward. When I served as Solicitor General later on under President Sirleaf, I found that most of the county attorneys all over the country were not lawyers. Some of them were not even high school graduates. Before I left the Ministry of Justice, I ensured that for the first time since 1847, the government hired law school graduates who are being admitted to practice law to be prosecutors in the 15 counties. That is transformation. And because of that, the standard of prosecution in the Ministry of Justice was elevated. I was appointed Minister of Labor. One thing I wanted to do at Labor Ministry was to emphasize Liberianization. The president has said that during her administration, the children will be coming and saying, they'll be running to their father and saying, Papa, don't come. But Papa, that come without plastic bag cannot sustain the children running to him every day. They might do it 1 or 2 days, but if he doesn't bring biscuit, in a plastic bag. He doesn't bring plastic bag with things in it, they will not run to him. So I call all the employers and say, look, you need to employ the young Liberians. They are all in the street. This is not good. They say Liberians are lazy and Liberians can steal. I said, all right. It is insulting to me because in India, Lebanon, China, other places, I'm sure they have people in the population who steal and who are lazy. There are more good people in Liberia than bad people. Anyway, to deal with the resistance, I had one tool. The work permit fees in Liberia had been $400 for many, many years, over a decade. So I met with my staff. We decided to increase the work permit fee. So I issued regulation number 17, raising the work permit fee from $400 to $1,000. Immediately I did it. Most of the foreign employers reduced the size of the foreign employees and started employing Liberians. It is regulation number 17 that got the young ladies you see in all the supermarkets in Monrovia punching keys, sitting at the cashier desk. It is that regulation. And because it was good, it has been difficult for subsequent ministers to change it, no matter how much negotiation employers have carried on. Adjusted ministry, my transformation has not been reversed. You have today only lawyers as county attorneys in all the counties. At the Ministry of Labor, my regulation number 17 has not been amended or repealed or revoked. So when you carry on transformation that is good, it sticks. I want to bring the same thing to the presidency of Liberia. Let me backtrack a little bit. I went to the Bar Association, and my 3 years tenure saw transformation in the Bar Association. For the first time since 1907, the Bar held an international conference in Liberia, and that was the African Bar. In 2019, Honor Magabo hosted lawyers from all over Africa, some from America and Europe, in Liberia. That is transformation. I saw a budget where a treasury that was below $30,000, and by the time I left the bar, I left $134,000 and built the first floor of a 3-story building. But that's physical. That's not enough. But we fixed the financial system, that there was check and balances, and because of check and balance in the accounting system, the money that was paid by lawyers was well secured. I traveled many times, and I brought change back, to the surprise of many members of the bar. But that is, leadership by example is the best way to lead. The bar used to have quacks coming into the practice law all over Liberia. They would just go to the Ministry of Finance and pay the license fee, and then they take the gown and be practicing all over Liberia. We enter into MOU with the LRA, and under that MOU, we had the authority to issue licenses to members of the bar. And so it was difficult for quacks to enter the bar. And then, because you had to meet all of the requirements before getting your license, bar members who are not paid their bar dues for 7 years had to pay all their dues before they qualified. We introduced continuing legal education. You had to get 12 credit hours of legal knowledge before you could qualify for license. Therefore, the standard of practice of law has increased, and the bar has enough money. The bar does not beg anymore. Before I went there, we used to be asking UNDP, the bar will be writing to the American embassy through UC, different people, in order to get support for our convention and other things. The bar is now self-reliant. There is dignity in self-reliance. So I want to be president of Liberia to bring what I've practiced at the Ministry of Justice, at the Ministry of Labor, at the Bar Association, in the governance of Liberia, and lay a firm foundation for good governance forever. Here is what I intend to do. Strengthen the rule of law through the professional enforcement of law by the police without interference from anyone, through protecting the independence of the judiciary. How am I going to do it? I'm going to issue an executive order stating that if any minister or official of government obstructs, influences, or interferes with police operation, just upon hearing that information, you will be dismissed. That minister will be dismissed immediately. One, equal application of the law. Here in the United States, if a senator commits a traffic offense and a janitor commits the same traffic offense, both of them are given the same ticket for the offense. You cannot have serious rule of law if there is selective application of the law. And that is what is happening in Liberia today. We issue executive order similarly for the protection of the independence of the judiciary, so that if any minister or official of government interferes with the operation of the judiciary from the magistrate up to the Supreme Court, you'll be immediately dismissed. Now, with a strong rule of law system, the police and the judiciary being independent, we are going to combat corruption. Here is how we combat corruption. The president will declare his asset. That's me, because I know I'll win the presidency. I will declare my asset, and I will publish that asset declaration on the internet and all major newspapers in Liberia. And then I will require the same of people I will appoint into government. They will declare the assets. I will have it published on the internet and in the major newspapers in Liberia. Then, when they take office, I will publish the salaries and benefits of the president, from the president down to the janitor, to the lowest person in government. And then how are we going to monitor it? Every 3 months, there will be a lifestyle audit done by auditors from the General Auditing Commission. They will start with the president. They will come to me and say, Mr. President, this is your asset declaration that we have. We've seen it on the internet. This is your salary. But can you explain how you bought this yacht that is so many, maybe $1 million yacht? Where you got money from? If I cannot explain, I will resign. But I will not resign because I will not engage in such questionable expenditure. I have been consistent in my life. I'm not going to go against the policy that I set. Therefore, if the auditors find a minister billing $300,000 or $500,000 or somewhere, they say, Minister, this is your asset declaration. This is your salary. Where did you get money from to build our house? If you cannot explain, President Gongloe will dismiss him and send him immediately over to the LHCC for further investigation and prosecution that will lead to the seizure of the assets, restitution, and jail sentence.
Thank you.
This method may not end corruption, but it will send a shock wave in the system that will make it difficult for people to be corrupt. In fact, for people to engage in stealing from government. Therefore, government jobs at the top level may not be attractive to a lot of people. If the president does not steal, it's going to be difficult for the ministers to steal. And if the ministers don't steal, their deputies, the assistant ministers, and civil servants will not steal. Through that, we will have money, enough money from combating corruption to strengthen our educational system to the extent that we intend to copy what is happening in Sierra Leone. Students from pre-primary to primary to elementary and secondary schools and secondary school level will go to school free of charge. Government will provide copybooks, pencils, pens, textbooks, everything free of charge, free school feeding program, library, science laboratory, computer laboratory, up to secondary level. That will encourage parents to send their children to school. Education is the number one. No nation develops without education. America, China, Russia, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, all of the countries that we know are well developed, strengthening their educational system. But we need money to do that. We cannot be depending on general donors all the time for developing our country. So this is what we do, and then money from there we use to strengthen our education, our agriculture, our health system, build roads, in fact, develop our infrastructure, including housing, low-cost housing, all of these things. If you don't combat corruption in Liberia, there is no way anyone can do any of those things that presidential candidates have been promising. Corruption is the number one enemy of Liberia. And now it is tough to combat corruption because the level of ignorance, incompetence, and stealing government is so high. And it's difficult to deal with it because, if somebody is ignorant, incompetent, but humble, perhaps they can learn something. But if they are dishonest and arrogant, then you're talking about impossibility. That's where we are right now. So I usually tell people that Liberia is in the ICU. And if Liberian people really like Mr. Joshua as president, they will be committing suicide.
Thank you.
So let me stop here.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tiawan Saye Gongloe, for that opening. And this is a special press conference style interview. I've invited all the media institutions. Some of them are not able to be here tonight, but we appreciate those of you that are here. At this time, the first person we call on, let's recognize Patient Play from 2A Radio to ask the first question.
Hello, Councillor. My name is Patience Blay, and I'm representing Liberia's #1 balanced independent premier online radio TV platform called 2A Radio. My first question here tonight is that in March of 2021, there was a policy brief by the International Women Initiative. And in that, they stated that Liberia have weak policies. And these weak policies, it leaves the women, the children vulnerable. It means that, sexual and domestic violence, begin something on the increase. And of late, we can see exactly what they were talking about. In the print media, in the electronic media, we see this increase in sexual and gender-based violence. So my question here is, when you become president, what will you do to alleviate this menace in the Liberian society?
Okay, now you're talking to the right person. The whole idea of even combating sexual and gender-based violence was something that I contributed to when I was in government. In my 2007 report as Solicitor General, I recommended that a special unit be established at the Ministry of Justice for the prosecution of sexual and gender-based violence crimes. And subsequently, that was done before, I left the Ministry of Justice. In fact, I interviewed the first set of employees that worked there. The first person was Councillor Felicia Coleman, former Associate Justice, and several lawyers and case workers and all of this. So I have set that up. So I did it because of the frequency of sexual and gender-based violence crimes. Now, as someone who knows the history of that and who have worked in the prosecution of those crimes, certainly that would be on the top of the agenda. When we strengthen the law enforcement to the extent that there is not selective application of the law, everyone who violates the law will be held accountable. And an independent judicial will be there to make sure that there's fairness in the trial of those who are accused, and while, because we are fighting corruption, the system will not be affected and flawed as it is presently. That's where I've worked. And there will be a lot of education too. I teach criminal law. I teach substantive criminal law at the Louis Arthur Graham School of Law. And we're discussing in class the other day, and I told the students that very often women are educated about sexual and gender-based violence, but there should be a lot of education of men to know. Yeah, men need to be educated because they are the perpetrators, of sexual and gender-based violence. Women do it in a limited way, but majority of the cases involves young men and middle-aged men. There has to be education, prosecution, all combined together.
Thank you.
Abby? You have to unmute yourself, please.
Hello, sir. How are you?
How are you?
Nice meeting you. Okay, I'm going to ask my question. I'm just going to read it. Okay. I'm a family nurse practitioner who practices in Philadelphia. I practice a family practice. I also come with 22 years of RN experience, 20 years on the cardiac floor, and I did long-term care as well. I've always been interested in the healthcare system in Liberia. I left from there way back in the 80s, but over the years, I've had several family members who have died from preventable deaths, and also those of other family members and friends too. So, knowing that the healthcare sector needs like overall revamping, I always talk about comprehensive healthcare. I'm not just talking about fixing one hospital and doing this and that. What are the three major things that you see wrong with Liberia's healthcare sector? And can you give us at least three specific ways that you're going to revamp the system? You can go more if you want.
When I said to you earlier that Liberia is in ICU, every aspect of our system is failing, and it's failing in time of peace. We can understand that when we had civil war and we experienced state failure, we could see. But we are in the time of peace, and the health sector is down, the agricultural sector is down, the educational sector is down, infrastructure, nothing is happening. So sometimes when we talk about health sector, how, Chinua Achebe wrote this book, When Things Fall Apart, the Center Cannot Hold. Our whole system is affected. Even the first question about policy, there's no commitment to implementing the laws of our country and implementing policies, in our country. So you can even have the best laws, the best policies. There is no commitment to implement laws and policies. I work in the health sector in a way because I was chairman of the Global Fund for some time. One of the problems in Liberia in the health sector is lack of monitoring. Sometimes drugs are brought by donors and they are left in a warehouse until they expire while people are dying. So monitoring is an issue. I was on the Global Fund for HIV, AIDS, malaria, and TB when I had relatives who died from TB. Why? Because the drugs will not be taken from the warehouse to the dispensary on time. And TB has a regulation that you have to take the drug every day at a particular time. And it will tell you 2 days, no drugs. I went to JFK. Since I think 2010, I've not gone back to JFK. A young lady brought my child. I was not feeling well. I went there, they did the test. And she brought me somebody's result. And the doctor gave me medicine on the basis of somebody else's result. I took the medicine and nearly passed. So no monitoring, no supervision of people. But we talk about health sector, go to the education sector, it's the same thing. No monitoring and supervision. So it is a very weak system. Of course, then it's affected by corruption, conflict of interest. For example, today, the Minister of Health is someone who has her own clinics. Most often, self-interest theory will override group interest theory. People, if they are doing business, they will think about their own interest more than the collective interest.
Thank
So,
you.
besides the fact that, a lot of money is not being put to the health sector, educational sector, and these other areas, but there's weak administration in the health sector, very, very weak. Plus, the health workers, nurses, PAs, all these people are not well paid and not regularly paid. Just the other day, health workers in the southeastern part of Liberia, where the president comes from, was striking.
So, Councillor, you said there's lack of supervision and monitoring. My question to you is why? Why do you think so?
That weakness, that's part of the poor governance of our country. If people work and they are not held accountable for, you see, I just told you, even I was a victim where somebody gave me somebody else's diagnosis and I was treated on the basis of that. Part of the thing about administration is to monitor, to supervise, and to take actions when people go wrong. All right? It is not happening. It is not happening. It's a laissez-faire system. And then those who work at the hospitals are not well paid. They are not well paid. Right now, you go to Redemption Hospital in Monterey, you go to JFK, then you don't have medicine in the hospital. They will prescribe medicine and say go to the drugstore to buy. And if you get medicine from a government hospital, at least it will be cheaper than when you go to Lucky Pharmacy or any of the pharmacies. In a country where people are getting incrementally poor, it's just difficult.
Thank you.
So they go and buy medicine on the side.
Thank you. Part of Abi's question was, how will you fix it when you become president?
So one of the things in solving a problem is to identify the problems. First, I will not appoint any minister of health who has his or her own private clinic. I will appoint someone who will commit his or her time 100% to the health system. That's the first place to begin. And then we will incentivize the health workers, pay them well, nurses, PAs, and the people who work in the hospital, pay them well and regularly. And make sure that we have medicine in the hospital. And the Ministry of Health should be monitoring, because like I said, even where in some places where you have medicine in the warehouses, they will let the medicine expire. I've seen situations where test kits for HIV/AIDS uh, 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 has expired, even though they were being given to us by donors, they stay right there and expire. Then they say, oh, we don't have vehicle to take the medicine from one place to another. That's the other thing. Other areas of government have so many vehicles, but the health sector, the educational sector, these areas that are very important for human development do not have the logistics that it should have. So we pay attention to those two sectors largely.
Thank you. Lady J.
Hi, sir. My name is Jessica Jerry, and I'm a student of psychology, media person, and an entertainer. I have a platform on Facebook, social media, called Everything Liberia. Thank you for being on the show today. My question for you is, Liberia's been through a war, and we've come to see a lot of corruption in our government. We also see most of the citizens of Liberia um, depending or relying on spiritual or witchcraft guidance when it comes to making decisions about things. Push it further, we also have infrastructure issues in Liberia where we don't have basic running water for the people there. We don't have good infrastructure, and we also have issues when it comes to clean water. What are the first three things you are going to do for our country when you become a president to raise or boost the confidence of Liberia?
You know, I just said to you that if we don't combat corruption, in order to stop the level of stealing in government, we can name all the things that we are talking about, we will not be able to do them. That's why I talk about rule of law and combating corruption. Because right now, our treasury is like a fishing net. When you put a fishing net in the water and take it out, no water can be inside. So where are we going to get the money from to do all these things that we are supposed to do? All right? Once you appoint people to power, to offices, and make sure that you do the thing I was talking about uh, lifestyle audit, quarterly lifestyle audit. Then they will be afraid the money will be there. Everything that is supposed to happen in the health sector, in the infrastructure, all those things, if you don't have money, you cannot do them. As I speak to you today, we're talking about education. The students don't even have school buildings to go to. This government has built, in the city of Monrovia, has built no school. Not one school. Even though the president and many officials of government have built so many private buildings for themselves. If they are stealing the money and they are not using it they're not money to carry out these public, to provide these social services, it will not happen. The emphasis right now is on theft, is on stealing. We are going to stop that. Once we stop that, we have enough money to build schools, to build clinics all over the country, in every community. For example, we used to have Monrovia Central School. It doesn't exist anymore. Esther Baker doesn't exist. Ellie Scarborough doesn't exist. Susan Berry doesn't exist. Yet the population of those areas where those schools existed before have increased. None of those things can be done if we don't improve integrity in governance by fighting corruption. Because right now, like I usually say, the government is not a place to steal, but a place to serve. Once the president does not steal and he appoints people and he holds them accountable, we will have money to do all those things.
Lady J, you want to follow up?
That's okay.
Well,
Or
I want to follow up on that. Not the same question, but he talked about stealing. He talked about the way forward. You know, having some kind of audit, or before you build, you have to lay a foundation. Most of the time, we have to look at the past before we can move forward. So, having said that, when you become president, will you audit Madam Salif, George Weah, and all others who have ill managed the affairs of Liberia?
Well, we will act in accordance with the law. Uh, we cannot be arguing that we'll promote the rule of law and do something that is not consistent with the law. The Supreme Court has said, a prosecutor charged Judy Bryant under President Salif as Solicitor General. And Judy Bryant argued that he cannot be prosecuted because he was president of Liberia, and the law prohibits the prosecution of a president who has not been impeached. We succeeded in prosecuting him, although he was acquitted. But the only reason why we could prosecute him was that he was not elected as based on the Constitution. The Constitution was suspended when, by arrangement, by agreement, he became president. But the law is a progressive science. But the only opinion on the Supreme Court is in 3 Cllr is on Charles D.B. King. When King resigned, the government that succeeded him tried to prosecute him for engaging in slave labor, selling of slave labor to Fanado Pool. And the Supreme Court said, well, unless you are impeached, you cannot be prosecuted. We follow the American system. You see, a few years ago, there was an attempt to impeach a president here. So many of the persons that serve under these presidents can be easily prosecuted, but the way our law is structured, the Constitution says, unless you impeach a president, you cannot prosecute that president. There's a bar there. That's the law until we change it, but that's the law.
Councillor, I don't tend to say that's not the law, but
Dennis,
the article, hold on, patient. The article you are explaining there talk about it became law based on the Supreme Court opinion in the Judy Bryant case. But prior to that, that was not the law, I want to believe.
No, that was the law. Charles D.B. King, 1930.
Okay, let me go to Abby for the second question.
Dennis, 1 second. I don't want us to leave this question because I mean, I still want to kind of like.
You said we have follow up. That's why.
Yeah, I want to do a follow up question from what this patient had to say, because at the end of the day, I'm still not clear about the answer the honorable gave.
Yes, because I didn't ask about impeaching or sitting president. My question was, if you become president, will you audit these past people and all those who ill manage the affairs of the country?
Thank you. We will audit. We will audit the whole system. We will audit. And we will audit those who should be held accountable for stealing our money will be held to account. In keeping with the law.
Lady J, you say you were following up?
I think he was able to clarify things now.
Let me go to Abby because I have a question on the corruption thing. So, but Abby, go ahead.
Okay, sir. My second question, and I was a little you were saying that all these other plans that you have, that nothing can happen until you get people to stop stealing and doing all that. You still have to be doing these development while you're holding people accountable. So I hope you plan on doing concurrent development, not waiting for one thing, because you only have 6 years to make a difference. And you can't spend all that time prosecuting other people. There will be people who'll be doing that while you're putting the hot issues on the top burner. But go into my second question. Alrighty. Like I said, I was a nurse before. I trained a lot of new nurses. I also do CNA. I'm a CNA instructor as well, and done a lot of teaching and volunteering in my community as well, all Facebook, and I have my forum. How do you plan on working along with health professionals that are overseas to work with people back there? I mean, is it to telehealth, or what plans do you have? Because people always saying, well, the Peace Corps are coming over, and other people who are non-Liberian, they come over to help. But those people are incentivized. Some of them come because of schooling, or the churches send them, so they're not coming freely. They're not coming using their own money. And people are saying, oh, because we love Liberia, we'll put our own money forward. It's not about being loved and all. We're coming there. With malpractice insurance. We're coming with housing, lodging, and all. What plans do you have in place to work with health officials over here that's going to help our people back there in ways of teaching or working together? What do you have in place for that?
There are so many health practitioners, not only in the United States, but in England and other places. Uh, the truth is that the way the Liberian economy is, the Liberian government is not capable of paying them at the same rate that they are paid in Europe, America, Australia, and other places. But at least the government can provide uh, housing and other allowances for them. Part of it would be largely patriotism to contribute, because truth be told, the government of Liberia is not able right now and in the near future to pay health workers who have worked abroad in the same way that they are paid in the countries in which to work. So the example of doing something like that is what has been happening at GFD in Tapeta. Some retired medical doctors from here, specialists, have gone there. There's a compound where free housing is provided, electricity and other things, and some stipend for them to help our system. I believe similar thing can be done, and the details can be worked on with the competent Ministry of Health, working with health practitioners abroad to work on a Cllr system to do that. But incentives will be provided. The only thing I can say clearly, honestly, is it will not be at the same level as you you earn in America, or you are
My
incentivized in America. Mhm.
I wasn't asking for the government or whoever the private company over there to pay us the same amount that we're getting paid over here. Of course, that's not going to be possible. Do you have a health plan somewhere where we can look at? Because all the questions that I'm asking you tonight, I know it's kind of hard to be specific, but you're not giving him specific answers. So do you already have a health plan in your platform somewhere where we can go and look at, where the public can go and read more about it? And if we have any other questions later on, we can present it to your team, because you're not being specific on what it is you plan on doing. So at least that way, maybe later on, I can go back and read your platform.
Okay, so uh, we are exploring the major things we talk about is what I said to you. I'm going to be running on a political party platform. Uh, I'm not yet a candidate, I'm an aspirant. And the party will have a platform. I have my own contribution on the major areas: rule of law, combating corruption, and getting money, saving money from combating corruption to do what is needed in the health sector, in the educational sector, uh, in infrastructure, in agriculture and other things. I'm not running as an independent candidate. Whatever will be my party LPP's platform at the end of the day, if I become the candidate of LPP, will be the platform that will be unveiled to the public on the specific areas uh, of, of the health sector, educational sector, agriculture, and other areas.
Thank you.
So
Councillor
you
Gongloe, corruption is a symptom of a bigger problem. If you did a root cause analysis, you will find out what is causing corruption in Liberia. So stopping corruption, what is it that is causing corruption? So when you are stopping corruption, what specifically are you going to do? Because you must go to the root to be able to kill the problem and not just deal with the symptom.
Uh, Dennis, corruption is based on greed. Look, I've seen some people who make low income and are still honest. And I've seen some people who salaries have been increased and are still corrupt. I remember, and that's not only in Liberia. One time, I think President Mwai Kibaki of Kenya decided to increase minister's salary, I think, to $20,000 a month. And still, that country was rated among the top 10 corrupt countries in Africa. When you are corrupt, the more you receive, you want more. It's based on greed. So the best thing to do is to make sure that you use the law to stop it. Because some people have greed that cannot end. We have a situation where people are making, ministers were not making what they're making today, but there are ministers who are still corrupt. In the judiciary, people were not making the money that they are making today. They were making much less than that in the 70s, in the 80s, and even in the 90s. So increasing salary alone is not sufficient to stop corruption. It is a crime, it's stealing. You have to hold people accountable for doing that.
And Councillor, with all your beautiful plans, you talk about the free school, the materials, everything free. I don't think saving money from corruption alone is enough to finance the project you want to undertake. How are you going to get money to do all the things you want to do if you're president?
You know, I talk about self-reliance, but when you are doing well in your country, other countries seeing that you are saving your own resources and not wasting and not stealing will help you. But you cannot be stealing your own money, lavishing it, and just making a few people to enjoy, and then expect that people will be generous to give you their money. No nation is an island. We intend to save money from corruption, but we'll also ask friendly donors. We have our partners that have always been there from America, Europe, China, and other areas to help us. It's the Chinese, for example, that built a hospital in Tapata. It's the Americans that built JFK, and they have done many other things. So, but we are saying that we will strengthen our financial system, we strengthen our legal system, we will combat corruption by example, and by that, other people will feel when we appeal to the partners of Liberia, they will have confidence in our system and they will be sympathetic enough to help us.
But Councillor, saving money from corruption and asking friendly people to give us money is not an economic plan.
No, that's not an economic plan. I have an economic plan. And I've said it many times, I can say it tonight,
Okay.
that one of the things we need to do is to increase value addition to products and to encourage manufacturing in Liberia. And I've said, if you put your factory 50 miles away from Monrovia, we'll reduce taxes every 50 miles away from Monrovia, to the extent that if you put your factories, if a company put a factory in Grand Jide, in Vonjama, or in Barclayville, or in Fishtown, Greenville, or Harper, they will pay nearly zero corporate taxes to government. But here is what government will get money from. They will employ locals. When they employ locals, government will generate income, taxes from those who will be employed. Withholding tax will be taken from the those who will be employed. Then the people who will be employed will, because they are earning money, will now start paying rent to house owners. For example, in Kipamas, where there are so many empty houses, they'll be paying rent to house owners. The house owners will have money to go to the market to buy things. Because there's money in the economy, drugstores will move there, private clinics will move there, insurance company will move there, uh, uh, motels will be there that people will pay motel bills, and these different other investments will lead to increase in employment. Even lawyers today, all the law firms are concentrated in Monrovia because the economy is concentrated in Monrovia. But when you decentralize the economy in this manner, then even lawyers would set up law firms all over the country. I remember when we had Suco, the sugar company in in
Really.
in Harper. People left from Monrovia to go to Harper to work. When we have Vampla, the plywood company in Sino, people left from Monrovia to work, and a lot of people in Sino were, I mean, they had jobs. One of the things that it does also is that the social benefit of that is that we slow down the rural urban migration. It is the intense urban migration that we have today that also contributes to the crime rate in Monrovia. When they come to Monrovia, the young people come to Monrovia to look for a job, like greener pasture. They can't find a job. They get frustrated. Their friends introduce them to drugs. Then, when they're introduced to drugs, without drugs, they are ashamed or afraid to commit crime. But when they take drugs, then they get in armed robbery and other things, maybe even engage in killing of people. But if you have a decentralized economy and most of the people stay in the different areas, and there's even a reversal of the rural urban migration, then the economy will work better. We will generate money from there to do all of these other things that we are talking about. I really strongly believe that giving incentives for companies, especially companies that are, for factories to move away from Monrovia, is going to have big social economic benefit for Liberia. Because even government projects, when we had LCADP in Lofa, we had NCRDP in Nimba, and BCADP in Banga, a lot of people from Monrovia were working in these areas. And because these economic activities, these projects were there, it served as a brake on the movement, the mass movement of people from the different parts of Liberia where these projects were located to Monrovia.
Uh, Lady J?
Yeah, my next question has to do with drug policy that is non-existent in Liberia right now. We have a whole community of people in Liberia that are being labeled as Zongos, and the population continues to increase year after year, where we have both the youth and adults being drawn into this group. Um, what do you have on your platform for a drug policy in Liberia that's going to help decrease foreigners coming into the country bringing drugs, and big hands also bringing drugs to our children and the people in Liberia?
So does law enforcement and the judiciary. Those are two areas to deal with the issue of drugs. People must be able to arrest, investigate, and prosecute those who are bringing drugs, the big hands, the small hands, the people who take the drugs, all of them. But more than that, we need to have a program for the drug affected youth that we call ZOCOs. One of the programs that I have in my mind that I've spoken about is to have camps like today, where we used to have Bella Yala, for example, put a camp there, put another camp up in Yikipa where Cllr used to be, grassy up in the mountain there. Put another camp in Southeastern Liberia in a place called, for example, Webo Nyanya camp, and get the young people from the street, use the police to get them from the street, take them to these camps, rehabilitate them, but just don't rehabilitate them by taking the drugs from there alone, but taking the drug from the system, but give them skills. If they're 2 years, 3 years, they'll be there tailoring, masonry, carpentry, mechanics, and all of the skills that they need. So they come from there as productive citizens. Then my economic plan of decentralizing uh, factories uh, and other productive activities away from Monrovia to other parts of the country will serve as an avenue for these young people to find jobs in these areas and become productive citizens and contribute to the development of Liberia. We need to do that. While we are fighting drugs, we need to have rehabilitation program and skill training program for the Zokos. I've asked the Zokos on Ashmore Street, where my law office is. I've asked them on Broad Street. I've asked them on Galley Street. And all of them said, we want to be rehabilitated and want skills to be able to take care of ourselves. We need to do that. It is this, what I'm telling you now is what came from the Zokos themselves by interviewing the ministry. And it makes sense to me.
Patient.
Yeah, Councillor,
And I
you are
just interrupt 1 second?
Sure.
He's talking about taking these um, patients or the young people to these different camps. You're gonna have drug counselors. You're gonna have psychiatrists, therapists. You're gonna have all those different necessary qualified people there to work with them because from what I'm hearing, most of the time people just saying, "Oh, just tell them to stop taking. You just take the drugs out of the system." You can't just stop it just by taking them from one location to the next. You're gonna have all those people located that far away from Monrovia doing that.
I think it logically follows. The experts will rely on the experts like you to, but we have a general policy of doing that. Now, what it takes to do it effectively will come from people like you, experts like you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Um, the question here is that you are from Lima County, and Prince Johnson is also from Lima County. And Liberians are noted for this tribalistic solidarity. During your tenure as president of Liberia, will the TRC recommendation be implemented?
Sorry. Listen, my statements are clear. I was president of the bar. The bar came up with a resolution calling for the full implementation of all recommendations of TRC, including the establishment of war and economic crimes. The bar went further under my administration and wrote the draft law for that, the draft law for establishing those two courts, and gave copies to the 103 lawmakers. Now, it is for us Liberians to tell the lawmakers to do their part of the work. Because if they do not establish a legal framework, for example, for the War and Economic Crimes Code, it will be difficult for any president to act. Um, but more than that, of course, there are other ways that will be explored to make sure that there's accountability. No nation can exist without accountability. Accountability is key. That should not even be a debatable issue. All right. But there are other aspects of the TRC. For example, Palabra Hut, building memorials, all over the place. I've been to Rwanda. I've seen how they treat the past. Liberia would like to say, let's forgive, forget, and let bygones be bygones. Collective amnesia is not even possible because there's no way you can say let's vote to forget. People never forget. So is It's good to keep talking about what happened in the past that was bad, to deal with it, to put closure to it, and then establish a new life. But that is a government issue. No matter what my views are, if the Liberian people are not prepared through the legislature to move forward, it's going to be difficult to do it. And they know their power. That's why, for example, the Senate came up with an obstructionist document called a, a resolution to establish a transitional justice commission. The TRC were already a transitional justice commission. That is something that all of us have to deal with. To put closure to our past. Sierra Leone put closure to its past and is moving forward, and that is why a lot of countries are supporting Sierra Leone's development. But Liberia seems to be fragile because we have not put closure to our past. My views on accountability is well established, so we don't even need to take any time on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are in a press conference style interview with Councillor Tiawan Saye Gongloe. He's a presidential hopeful for 2023 on the ticket of the Liberian People's Party. We're going to be opening the phone lines very shortly. We're going to be reading comments, but let me ask this question, Councillor. Article 10 of the Liberian Constitution states, the Republic shall ensure the publication and dissemination of this Constitution throughout the Republic and the teaching of its principles and provision in all institutions of learning in Liberia. Clearly, we know that is not happening. Article 90 also talk about, no, Article 80 also talk about absentee ballot. So we are in America, we should be voting absentee ballot. All these things are not happening. I have not really seen or heard you or any lawyer bringing a writ, and I'm going to speak a legal term yet, writ of mandamus against the government because they are not doing what they're supposed to do. Why has that not happened? And when you become president, are you waiting for that time before you do something of that nature?
Okay, the Supreme Court come with several opinions that if you're a citizen or group of citizens and you want to take a matter of public interest to the court, you must have standing. The most recent one was the Citizen Solidarity Group that filed something on the Code of Conduct. So Liberians in America, for example, have standing to raise the issue of absentee ballots. And they can hire lawyers to do that, or lawyers can volunteer to do that for them. But the real petitioners would be those who are affected. Liberians who live in Liberia are not affected by that. So if they raise the issue, the Supreme Court will say, how are you injured by the fact that there's no absentee ballot? So when you talk about issuing rate, that should come from here or from any diasporan group, okay? But I've committed myself to implementing our laws, the Constitution and statute laws of Liberia, okay? So that's what I can say on that. On the issue of education of the Liberian children, again, that's something that's an obligation under Article 6 of the Constitution. It is the obligation of the Liberian government to educate the children of Liberia, and it includes educating them on the Constitution,
yeah,
and statute laws of our country. That is something that has not happened. It should happen.
But Councillor, you're a poor man lawyer. These things should happen. They have not happened. What have you done?
Listen, there is no lawyer in Liberia that can boast of public education in the law equal to me. I'm doing work.
I'm talking about bringing the government to court.
So to take the government to court,
yeah,
I know the law. So it should be, you mean the children of Liberia taking the government to court?
Yeah. Are you advising diaspora Liberian to talk about Article 80, or the children of Liberia who are not being taught the Constitution and advising them what to do so that the government is compelled to do the thing that it's supposed to be doing.
Well, the the you know something like taking the government to court to educate the Liberian people, not just the children, the Liberian people about the Constitution of Liberia, um, is something that I'm not sure, given the Supreme Court opinion, it should be tested. But like I say, the Supreme Court has said if something affects the whole population and a group of people come and talk about it, the question would be, what is your standing? How are you different from the rest of the people? Our code are now the only code that has taken the matter of public interest seriously is the ECOWAS code under the Roma theory of Asio Populare, that any citizen has a right to take a matter of public interest to the court. But that is in the ECOWAS code. Our code has not adopted that doctrine yet, but perhaps it remains to be tested by an action.
My next question here is normally we hear from, and you have said it over and over about integrity and what you're going to do. And you listen to some of your those who support you to say Councillor Gongloe is a man of integrity. And so, from what I'm hearing from you, are you looking at this presidency as a one man thing that you need either a good man or a strong man to make the changes, or is it something that a system thinking or changing the system, or is it that okay, since I am a integrity icon, I'm a strong man, I'm a good man, I'm this, I can make the difference. Is that how what I'm hearing from you?
Look, Dennis, look at history. Change is led by an individual. In this country, Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement. In Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, in the short time that he led the country, changed Burkina Faso. Magufuli, Tanzania, before him, Julian Nyerere. Change is brought by individuals. They lead, you know. Change is not something that is brought collectively. Someone leads change. Jerry Rollins, he had his problem with human rights situation in Ghana, but everyone observing Ghana who have followed Ghana know that the economic transformation that is taking place in Ghana in modern years was led by Jerry Rollins. Of course, Kwame Nkrumah laid the foundation by establishing the Akasomo Dam, the three major universities in Ghana, the Tema Port, which served as the foundation for Ghana's development. With military coup and bad governance, it went down, but in recent years, it was Rollins that led the transformation of Ghana. Change is led by an individual. It's not that he alone would do it, but he leads and sets example. In the bar, I didn't do everything alone, but I led it. And because of the level of leadership I showed, the bar elected my vice president to succeed me at a convention that I wish the vice president was elected president. Everyone was saying continuity. The Gongloe administration must continue. But the bar has a law that you cannot serve more than one term. So my vice president was elected president. My treasurer was re-elected. But I led the change that the bar is being celebrated for today. You can have laws, you can have good policies. It takes someone to give effect to those policies and laws. And a follow-up question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I got a question. We have heard you talk a lot about corruption, trying to curtail corruption. And looking at previous governments, we have seen a lot of nepotism. We have seen a lot of tribalism in administration. Do you tend to follow suit? In other words,
I've been a critic of nepotism, tribalism, and in my whole life. That is why I'll be elected president, because everyone knows that Cllr Gongloe cuts across the country. And tribalism is far away from him. Nepotism is far away from him. In fact, my siblings can be telling me, we're just talking to people for them to be elected because we know we're not going to get jobs. They know that. I criticized President Saye for nepotism. I cannot do what I criticize other people for. When I was in government, I used to pray every morning, Lord, give me the strength and courage not to cross the line that I shouted at other people for. It's shameful to be inconsistent.
thank you.
Councillor, we're going to take a short break, but before that, we see you with the broom. And the broom is the symbol of the Liberian People Party, I understand, and that was in the early 1980s. Currently, the broom you carry cannot even do anything to the dirt that we have, let alone that you don't even have the shovel and the diggers and even the firewood to burn the dirt that you're going to. Why are you still carrying this small broom?
Let me tell you, the broom is symbolic of a commitment to sweep corruption and make government clean. It's also a symbol of beautifying the country. You have to clean the country up. You have to clean governance and clean the environment. The last time I was at Providence Island and pointing to the level of filth in the Drew River, and saying, if this is money lying here for tourists and even Liberian visitors to be coming to Providence Island, even you say people should pay $5 to enter Providence Island and do things there. They said the government will raise money. That is not being done. The biggest dump site in Monrovia now is the Drew River. That's not correct. But you sound like 3 young ladies I saw at Ministry of Finance when I was symbolically sweeping the Ministry of Finance. They actually said what you said. They said, Councillor, the corruption in the building here, they've been too small for the corruption. I think you should go bring shovel or bulldozer, because 3 days now we are not have electricity here. But it is not the broom itself. It is a symbol of commitment to cleanse government and to make sure that we clean our environment and make Liberia a better place. Our agenda is, what do we say? A better Liberia is possible. A better Liberia is possible. It will clean corruption from the governance of Liberia.
Thank you.
And I have track record for that. People should look at my track record.
We'll take a short break, but before that, Abby is going to make a final comment as she has a commitment and maybe final question, and then we can take leave of her and take a short break. When we come back from the break, we're going to open our lines for questions. The phone line 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403. Abby.
Okay, hi. I'm not muted, right? Let me just make sure. Okay. Mr. Gongloe, it was nice meeting you and talking to you. I look forward to seeing your platform, especially as it relates to healthcare. I know you say you don't have your own and you still have to run in your primary, but I'm sure as a candidate, you have your own platform that you're going to be mixing with the rest of the other candidates in your party to, But anyways, I look forward to seeing that. Hopefully, your team can get together and put that together in the next day or so, or you already have it. Please publish it. It's nice talking to you. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Lady J. Thank you, Pastor Patience. Good night to all of you. I live in America and I have responsibilities that I have to take care of. So good night. And I'm always available to come back on if you need me.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
Thank you and welcome back. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. We have one caller on the line, but before that, let's go to Lady J for one question.
Sir, my last question to you tonight is 75% of Liberians of Liberian-owned businesses in Liberia are run by foreigners. And some years ago, Idi Amin did something very dramatic by removing most of the foreigners out of the country in Uganda so that they were not spectators of their own economy. How will you shift the commerce policy in Liberia to encourage and empower Liberian-owned businesses?
Well, I don't like Idi Amin's example. Idi Amin is not a good example for anything in Africa or anywhere in the world. But what I can tell you is, I just told you an example of what I did at Ministry of Labor on Liberianization. It is government that empowers its citizens. Government can create wealth. By government giving contracts to Liberian business people, and which I intend to emphasize, will create our own millionaires and perhaps in the future billionaires by giving them contracts. They are citizens, they generate the revenue. Why give contracts to other people in their Liberians that are qualified to do those contracts? It doesn't make sense to me. Preference should be given to Liberians when it comes to contracts. Yeah, I wouldn't do what is happening today. Our president said that under his administration, Liberians will not be spectators. I always say he's right, because in order to be spectator, you have to be on the stadium. Liberians are not even inside the stadium, so they can't be spectators. Yeah, they are kept away. I wouldn't do that. I would emphasize Liberians that one of the benefits of citizenship for you to feel special in a country over all other people. I don't have any apology for that. We need to do that, to create our own indigenous millionaires by giving contracts to Liberians. For example, why should we be importing furniture? We should give contracts to Liberian furniture makers to supply all our schools, government ministries, and everything. You make a policy that we will not import furniture, will not buy.
I think he's stuck.
We have the councillor frozen here. So we have the phone lines, they're all ready. So we'll take another short break as the councillor gets his number, get his the system set up. Quick commercial, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Focus on Liberia. This is a special press conference style interview with Councillor Tiawan Saye Gongloe. I have with me Jessica Jare, aka Lady J of Everything Liberia, and Patience Blair from 2A Radio TV, also 45 City. Ladies, how the interview going so far?
Right? Go ahead, Lady J.
You want my honest opinion, right?
Be honest, we're here to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Go ahead.
Okay, I think the counselor is probably tired because I don't know. I'm not getting that energy that I was expecting from him. But maybe it's just my first time, engaging him. So, but I feel he's tired.
Okay. That's the patient.
I'm not getting that oof.
Yeah, well, not too bad. Of course, like she already said, he looks tired. And sometimes when you taking the same questions over and over and over, sometimes you just get exhausted. So
Yeah.
maybe, it has something to do with that. Nevertheless, I'm sure we're going to have him on the platform again. And I'm looking forward to having him onto a radio also, so we can continue this interview, because there's more that we need to know. Because if we have to put our vote or him, then we have to know what he's bringing to make that change in Liberia. So uh, hopefully, you know, we can get all the answers that we are looking for.
Okay. Hold on, I
Yeah.
think is calling
Dennis,
here.
1 second. Because we're at a very critical time in our country where a lot of things are not unsatisfying to people that live outside the country. So investors that want to come in and people that live in the country, there is a huge disconnect in regards to how can we move things forward and all those things. So we need someone that has some extra passion and strength. And by this time, I felt he would have already had a platform that I could read to have an understanding of who he was coming to this. But I couldn't find anything when I did my research. So, and Abby asked a question about that, and he said he's putting things together. I think before you start doing these interviews and speaking about what you want to do, you need to have something on paper so that we have an idea and a scope of what to discuss based on what we can determine would be your strengths and weaknesses. So I feel that we do need to revisit this when that homework has been done, when he's well rested, that we could come back to the table and discuss things that will be more I guess that will be more stable and more constant than what I'm hearing now. Because I'm hearing a lot of things from him, but it's really not concrete for me to take away.
I see it another way. It's like he rightly said. I'm not speaking for him though, but I'm looking at it in another direction, because he said he's not yet the candidate for that party. So in so doing, the party must come together and have the specific. This is what we need to do as a party to revamp the health sector or revamp the educational sector, whichever sector they're going to do. And if we're putting you out there, this is what we want to see. So if you go ahead of the party and start putting out something, I mean, it's like you are representing yourself. You are no longer representing the party. So if he says he has no platform out there, this is the reason, I believe, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it. So you have to be a candidate for the party as their head before you can start putting stuff up there. Yeah.
Before this man decide to come out to the public,
I'm sure he has something.
Ask these questions.
Yeah.
I feel that there should be more, because I wanted to read something. So yes, as he rightly stated, it's an individual that make a change. So let me see what his mindset is. Let me tap into it, kind of figure out who he is as a person when it comes to some of these things that he's looking to implement when it comes to the changes, and then the party will be able to add their own there, because it's actually the candidate that comes and say, I'm thinking that we should do a hydro, and then they will, push on it. People that got money will come and say what they have to say, and then make something. So I feel he has a lot of work to do. He seems like a really nice person. I don't know him personally, but we are worried as citizens of Liberia and people that live in the diaspora, because we've heard these conversations before, and we want to make sure that something good is going to happen to our country in the next upcoming years, because we are, again, as I reiterate, at a critical stage in our country.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Patient. The councillor, where he is at the hotel, the internet went off, and that's why they haven't. So at this time, we're going to. Okay, the councillor is coming back on.
I've heard.
All right, so we're going to
I've
bring
heard
in
your observations, and
yes,
let me
thank goodness you're back.
Yeah, I've heard your observations, and you have one issue: the detailed, platform. Even though are not being written, but we're talking about broad policy framework. The details will come. Our emphasis is on rule of law, combating corruption to save money, to strengthen the health sector, educational sector, agriculture, infrastructure, and all of those. Anybody can give you details now. Where would they get the money from? Where would they get the money from? We have had platform. Charles Taylor, for example, had a big platform like a book. If you don't stop the leakage in our economy, in our governance system that comes through corruption, everything else will be fairy tale. It is a system that I have observed, I've been critical of, long time. I don't know, around 1978, when we were going to jail for criticizing government. I don't know how old you were, but, these are the things that we have stood up for. You can write platform like a whole dictionary. If you don't make sure that you have a system of accountability to make sure that there's the leakage on our treasury is slowed down. All of those things you are talking about are things that experts can do. The experts will give you details. One minister of health, for example, Dr. Gwenegali came and started decentralizing the health system in Liberia. That is what he did. But he's an expert in that area, and people will remember him for that. Set up county health teams and that was a new idea. Other people will come if you have a government that is committed, that is led by somebody who has integrity and is not looking for things for himself, building houses all over the place. The experts will help the president to develop different segments of our economy.
Thank you, Councillor.
And to provide social services. Everyone who is dealing with Liberia, whether Europeans, Americans, other African experts will tell you the one problem that is stopping Liberia's development is corruption.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to bring in our callers here. First is Mr. Elvis Morris. Elvis, you are live.
Thank you so much, Mr. John, and thanks to the councilor for being in studio today. I'm a staunch supporter of Councilor Gongloe. I think his biggest strength is his integrity, his character. So, and I just want to make a quick comment before I ask him a question.
Quickly.
To Lady J, I think what the councilor is saying is that first you have to be your party's nominee, and I think once he becomes the nominee, he will sort out experts in those different areas to give him advice, to be his healthcare advisor or his economic advisor. Those are not his area of expertise. You can't expect a presidential candidate to be an expert in everything when it comes to running the country. So I think that will probably come down the line later. But again, to the councilor, I want to ask him in terms of, I'm a big supporter of his. My biggest concern is, he may not be so familiar with the political system in terms of running for elective office. You know, I know he won the Bar Association, but that's kind of a closed group. So, you know, having not won either a representative or a senatorial election for, how does he feel, you know, he's going to fare in a presidential election, which is probably way more difficult than a localized election? Thank you again for taking my call, Mr. John.
Thank you. And Councilor, I will jot the questions down here. We'll take a few more. This one, Jimmy Eastman. Jimmy, quickly, 1 minute.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Jimmy.
Mr. John.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yes. Hey. Okay, very good. Councilor, it's a breath of fresh air. You know, I always call you Dr. Fofana Protege.
Yes.
Fresh air to hear you on tonight. But the task ahead is quite daunting, as they say in French, c'est pas évident. Let me remind you of some of your predecessors, guys like Mugabe, who had all the brilliance and PhDs upon PhDs, but took a robust agricultural economy and ran it into the dirt. You and I come from the same school of thought. We're all contemporaries at LU. But what you will find is one of our largest, one of the most prominent things is Africa is so dependent on aid. That will be something you will have to confront right away. How do you % of our trade is with Europe, 40% is with America, the other with Asia. We only intertrade about 12%. Our largest asset is our youth population. We have the youngest population in the world, about 200 million between 15 and 24. But that requires 74 million jobs you're going to have to create for those people. So my question to you, it's going to be quite daunting and quite challenging. And everything you've probably learned, you have to have a little more than that, as our predecessors have seen. So how do you plan? But strong dependency on aid and the drastic lack of jobs and activity for our youth. That's my question for you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Let me bring in Mr. Kesali Double. Kesali Double, you are live. Go ahead, please. 1 minute.
Well, okay, thank you very much, Mr. John, and thanks to Councilor Gongloe and thanks to your health panelists. Councilor, I'm having more interest in this corruption saga in Liberia because, like I've said, over and over, corruption is Liberia's biggest problem. We can have all of these great ideas, they have much as corruption is still on the book of Liberia, we go nowhere. And now you just put Article 61 for us that the president cannot be prosecuted even the least public. So my question is, why do we have the word pursuant in Article 61? What's the use of it if the president will not be prosecuted? And then is there any way we can make the Supreme Court to revise her ruling, previous ruling wherein president will not prosecuted? Because if corruption is not fought, I can tell you, we are going nowhere. And every president that will come, they will just steal the penny on an identical clause in the Constitution and take and get away with it.
Thank you. Teddy Lion Yankun, the CDC local person. Go ahead, Teddy.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call, Brother John.
Yes, sir.
Let me greet the one and only lady here in the studio and other lady there, and greeting to the council. I'm Teddy Lion Yankun, the VCO for CC USA North Dakota chapter. Well, Mr. Councilor, I understand that there's war crimes court issues is one of the things that I aspire to want to use that to gain popularity. But I want you to tell me how well will you muster the courage to send the notorious Prince Johnson for war crime. And one thing I ask this question because I know that the Nomadians are very concentrated people who reserve the ways of their ancestors that don't move near each other. And I want you to tell me which type of justice you apply, restorative justice or retributive justice
Thank you.
Which one would be necessary to apply when it comes to war crimes?
Thank you. But Terry, you have no study that shows that people from NIBA don't move from behind each other. So let us refrain from making those kind of statements if we have no proof and nothing to show what you are saying.
I asked the question because
no, I know.
a lot of the warlords came from that side.
No, you could ask the question. Hold on, Terry. You can. No, you can ask the question about Prince Johnson, but to say this is how Niba County people behave, that is not true. You have no proof of that statement. So,
okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I will
take that back.
I want to know how well he muster the courage.
Yeah. I got your question.
The godfather of Niba County.
Thank you. I got your question. Aliyu Kamara. Aliyu, you are live. 1 minute. We have two. Let's take from Aliyu. We take two more, and then we will.
Special pronouncement on me. You call all other people talking. I'm a special pronouncement on them. Why you want?
Because I know you, Aliyu. You never contribute, but you can talk more than the people who can give money.
Let me. I know you're looking for problems, and I will not join you because you know I support my puppet in the studio there. So you try to subjugate me in such a way, but I will not allow you. Let me say hi to the able women in there. You brought some very smart women on the show today. Pastor Patient and I was a panelist on that show one time, and she fell in love with me. She still loves me up to now. Lady Jim,
I even know you.
That's okay. But let me say hi to Councilor Gregor. I really admire you. We grew up hearing the name. And Lady J cannot say the same because I smoke it. So we grew up hearing the name Tiawan Gongloe, and we see your function. And I just want to remind the panelists that the man is called Cllr Gongloe, not somebody who did healthcare administration. When you are asking about detailed specifics as to how an adequate healthcare authority should function, they come to me because I got a degree in that field. The man is Cllr Gongloe. What he carries is the vision and the ability to lead. And all of those follows with him appointing those with the technical abilities to resolve some of your concerns. If you are a psychologist and you ask inside psychologist question for Cllr Gongloe, who is a lawyer, to give you details, then you're not looking for the right answer. His job is to lead and to have vision, to know where he's taking the country. And I can guarantee you, I've known him all of my life. He is a man of principle. He means what he's saying. Lady J. Cllr Gongloe is not tired, he's not sleepy. This is how he has always been. He's a soft talker, he's a small guy. That's how he is. I saw him got beaten and all of that. But let me just ask this question.
And you have 30 seconds, please. We have more callers here.
Yeah. Then you take more than my time. That's the problem. You don't give me a chance to finish. But anyways, so Cllr Gongloe talk about corruption as the main way, or killing or closing loopholes as the main way of generating resources for some of these other projects that he may want to undertake. Granted. But has he done any studies to know how much he's going to be able to save if he were to target corruption? And just to close, Cllr Gongloe is also not saying that he would just sit down and just fight only corruption. No, things will be done simultaneously. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you. Let me take the caller 445-345-0585. Your name and where you calling from? Area code 445. Your name and where you calling from? All right. Let's skip that. Let's go to Jefferson Toba. Jefferson, 1 minute. Let's be very brief this time, 30 seconds each.
Okay, thank you very much. As part of the discussion, the first thing, every time before you spend, there will be a plan. If you do not plan, you always fail. Then we also in Liberia depend on aid. We look at our budget, almost 60% is on aid. And the Gambisa Moya said, aid is still in Africa. So when do we move away from aid? Now, the rule of law also is our constitution, the president cannot be independent until in age. So it means the rule of law has segregation. so the president can go at will and commit more crime or corrupt more. Madam Sadi said corruption will be following no one enemy, and we started to be following no one friendly, and actor. And she could defend more people, but she could not prosecute people. So we will not see the same thing because it is true that corruption is the bedrock of our government. It's the cardinal point that drives Liberia downward. So how fight corruption? Will we start from the minister, will we start from the president, will we start from everybody? Because in Liberia, we see the little people are more prosecuted than those who have the power.
Thank you. I'll go to the councillor because we have more callers, but let the councillor respond on a couple of those questions. If you want me to repeat them, councillor, I can do that.
Okay, let me try, and then the ones that don't answer you can. But let me just say that I'm not sleeping. I'm alive, maybe because of the light here. Yeah, it's because of the light. From where we are in a hotel. Okay, let me start with the ones I remember. Someone say, oh, you are not being senator or representative. You've been president above, but are not sufficient for running for the presidency. Becoming a senator or representative is not a criteria for becoming president. All right? Georgia became senator before he became president. Charles Taylor was not a senator, he was not a representative, and he became president. There are other people who are being elected all over Africa who work.
We are having problem again with councillor line. So let's go back to our callers as we wait for the councillor. This number 16, Sharif, your full name and where you calling from?
And even being a senator or representative. The only difference is that.
Okay, hold on, Sharif.
Pardon. Hello?
No, councillor, go ahead. You froze, so I wanted to bring in more callers, but you can go ahead now.
Okay. So yes. So being a senator, the only difference is that you are elected, but a minister has a greater responsibility in terms of administering the budget and dealing with people. So, and that's what presidency is practice. In fact, I can say I'm the only candidate in the race that I can boast of practicing to be president before becoming president. I worked with Dr. Saye as his executive assistant for 4 years, dealing with, other presidents, writing speeches for president, organizing president's meeting and all of that. So I know about presidency. And so I'm better suited to run for the presidency than those other people. And being a president, I went all over the country. Yeah.
Councillor Gongloe, if you can put your camera up a little bit so we can see your body move up.
Can you see me?
Yeah, just move it up a little bit more because the opposite way. Right, because of your background, so it's clashing with the colors you have on. So we are having some problems seeing you. Did you freeze again?
I think so.
All right. Let me get all my colors in now, and then we can go back. Let's start with Sharif. Sharif, your full name and where you calling from?
Is that Sharif? Is that 7560 Sharif?
Yes.
All right, yeah, my name is Jiba Sharif. I'm calling from Philadelphia, specifically from Philadelphia,
okay.
Pennsylvania. My question, how are you, Councilor Gongloe? I've been hearing a lot about you in terms of integrity and all good stuff when it comes to our beloved country, Liberia. But my question to you is, I will start with the broad one, is what do you think is the overriding challenge Liberia faces? And what are your plans to really fix it? I know you talk about corruption, but I mean, do you think that's the most or the critical issue that is facing Liberia? Because when I look at Liberia, honestly, infrastructurally and economically, all of the countries that surround us, Ivory Coast, Guinea, even Sierra Leone, I don't think we match them.
Okay.
So, and you have a state of government. That takes me to my second question. I know you serve in the early government. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
And I mean, and everything was not rosy. Like I thought when Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was elected as president, I thought maybe 60 to 70% of our problem was solved. But unfortunately, I don't think many Nigerians can say, yeah, it was the problem because Russia after was going to be was going to end. But instead of this ending, there are things that I hear that the president came on and said, well, that this person did it and I take responsibility. And you were in that government, and we're now loyal. I don't know what to do. What's your position on, even though you serve the government and you're a Liberian? What did you do to really stop with that? Because leaders.
No. Just ask the question. Ask your question. We have more callers.
One of the callers said instead of prosecuting, you're defending corruption. That for me is problematic. And then
please let's go to the next caller, please. We have more callers. Okay. Let me get the next caller is Setu Kawi. Setu, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, John?
Good.
How you doing, Councilor? I think your show is going good. The Councilor, I think people need to do their research when they come out here, try to get to know the Councilor, because if you're asking questions, hoping you know who he is. The Councilor is on record for the past 40 years of being a man that's very honest, integrity driven. He served as Minister for Labor on LA. He's actually the first Liberian minister that publicly disagreed with the president and resigned from his job. Now you tell me if you have anybody in our recent history upon that. He is talking about fighting corruption. One of the most important things that can move Liberia forward is to curtail corruption. Right now, as we speak, the Liberian government is spending 85% of our entire budget on recurring expenditure. Now, if you do an overturn of the budget, you will know very well that at the end of the day, majority of that money that is placed in recurring expenditure goes to the president and goes to his friends and whoever. How can you go ahead with education? How can you go ahead with healthcare? How can you go ahead with infrastructure development when you don't have the money?
Right.
When your boss, your national corporate is leaking. So the first thing we got to do is we really want to fix this country is to target corruption.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that I have somebody that has the record of service as a human rights advocate and also as someone that works in public service and a private sector that shows that hey, he has the commitment, he has what it takes to fight corruption.
Thank you, Setu.
We need to go along and keep talking about the biggest elephant in the room, which is corruption. You can have all the platform you have, you can have all the paperwork, but if you don't have the political will to fight corruption, it's for nothing.
Thank you.
So I'm very happy. I'm going to support him because I know who he is.
Thank
I
you.
know what he stands for. I think everybody got to ask him questions and let him experience them and give those that don't know him the opportunity to get to know him.
Thank you. Let's go to our next caller here. Is that Lamont Worrell? 678 area code. 7101. Your name and where you calling from? All right. It's not ready. Let's go to Dixon Gonga. Go ahead, Dixon.
Good afternoon to every one of us. How you doing, Mr. Gongloe?
Good. Go ahead. Question or comment?
Yeah, my question has to do with this. Mr. Gongloe said he has been very excellent in his area of profession, and I want to give it to him. But then at the same time, he told us in one of the interviews that there was corruption in Ellen government, but the case did not go to him. So that was a failure on his part. And then the second thing was, most of the corruption that went on, Ellen children were there, and she said she took responsibility, and she was there. My question, the overall, 2007 and 2008, Mr. Gongloe is continuously talking about war crimes because he wants to persecute people. He had the best opportunity. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he had the best opportunity when Moruba Moru or Baika Jaliba and other guys were advocating for war crimes. The left Kofi Anarchy to Moria, I was there. The left Kofi Anarchy to Moria and the Guardian wanted to go petition the left Kofi Anarchy concerning this or war crime code. At which time we have the 15,000 troops on them. This man, the one Gongloe barricaded those guys and they beat us. They raided us all of that place. And that was the appropriate time for this war crime code. What came to the man that he barricaded on that day and we were drilling, beating, and people went to jail? Why? Can you answer this question today? Thank you.
Thank you. Our last caller here is Lamont. 678-525-7101. Your name and where you calling from?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, your name, please.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
I'm Eleanor. I'm Eleanor Davis calling from Roundtable.
Go ahead, Eleanor.
I would like to say thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you.
And thanks to counselors for giving us the chance to be able to ask a question. One of our questions is, counselor, as we all know that in Liberia that women and children are being raped on a daily basis. If you become president today, how will you address the issue on rape concerning children and women in Liberia? What will you have in plan for that? The next question is health system. You know, the health system in Liberia is so out of order. People go to the hospital and they get no bed, drugs. They have to go get drugs. By the time they get back to the hospital, you're already born. Sometimes people die and all that. How are you going to address the health issues in Liberia, and what will you have in second plan for better health care system in Liberia? Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. Counselor, you got your work cut up for you.
Okay, so
let's start from the bottom.
Okay, so the system was done a little bit, so I may have missed some questions.
Yeah. So the question here, the one from Jefferson Togba say, what is Liberia overriding challenge, and what are your plans to solve it? And he also say you were in the Ellen government. What did you do? That was repeated by Dixon Gonga, who said you were in the Ellen government. And you had a perfect opportunity for war crime court. And when they tried to go to Kofi Annan, you instructed them being barricaded and beaten. Eleanor said the issue of rape and the hospital, the healthcare issue.
Okay, so I got that. I got Eleanor. Let me say what he's saying is untrue. Even Moba Molu will not tell you that. I remember one day I was standing in front of the Justice Ministry as Solicitor General Moba Moluki and stood by me and said, arrest me now. I said, no, I'm not about to arrest anyone. I've been fighting for freedom of expression, and myself, I protested many times. So I'm not about to. And then when I left Ellen government, if he knows, the only person, the only lawyer, Moba Molu, Jefferson Koji, and others always sent to defend them at the police station and the magistrate court was Councillor Tiawan Gongloe, free of charge. So what he's saying is not true. That's not me. I challenge him to prove what he's saying. It is not true. That are other people barricaded and all of that. That's not true. You know. So I can't even go further with that, because the people he's talking about were people that are represented many times. Now, on the issue of health system, I think that question had come before. I talked about the lack of supervision and monitoring and all of that. We have to put a lot of money to health and education. There's no question about that. And then make sure that we have the proper health administrators from the minister down. You know, one thing I learned in Rwanda one time is that the auditors audit down to the clinic and to go to the villages and ask whether the medicine that government bought reach the target population. GSC work is not only to, for example, check on corruption alone, but is to check on whether or not when government provides services, the services reach the target population. I learned that in Rwanda from the one trip we went on a health trip again, Global Fund meeting in Rwanda, that there has to be rigorous monitoring, and the auditors can do that. So that when they do that, then there will be consequences. People can be dismissed. The one thing in Liberia, people don't get dismissed, people don't get punished. When people do something wrong, there should be consequences. If not, you build impunity and people do the same thing over and over. So we have to do something about the health system. It's an issue of administration, it's an issue of commitment of more money to health, and then auditing the system. Somebody should talk about rape and all of that. I said earlier that I was part of the strengthening the system on the prosecution of rape cases. In fact, it was under my administration in 2005 that a recommendation was made to establish a special unit for the prosecution of rape cases. Rape is an offense that takes place everywhere in the world. What needs to be done is holding people accountable, for the system to work, for witnesses to come forward and testify. I've observed in Liberia that sometimes when people are arrested, the families of rape victims, this is true, they go and compromise, and on the basis of that refuse to come to court to testify. If the state, I'm not defending the state here, but if people don't come and testify, there will be no convictions. Most of the rape victims are confidants of the perpetrators, stepfather, uncle, brother-in-law, teacher, principal. When our Solicitor General, we even had a pastor in jail for rape. There was a magistrate that went to jail for rape. Police officers. But sometimes compromises take place in the community. People move. We have a system where we don't have zip code and all that. When people move from their location and move somewhere, sometimes it's difficult to find them. And then when people stay in jail beyond the statutory period, the defense counsel will come and file a motion to dismiss the case because the law says a person accused of a crime cannot stay in jail beyond a certain period. That is also an issue. So we have to, to do a lot of education in the community. Even some judges. One time, one judge said the rape law is too wicked because it makes men to go to jail sometimes for life. And why will a 25-year-old man spend his whole time in jail? And I told the judge, the sympathy should be on the side of the victim and not on the side of the perpetrator. All right. So there's a lot of education to be done. And like I said, that's something that I deal with every day. I was Solicitor General. I teach criminal law and criminal procedure law, and we deal with these issues. But there has to be a lot of education. There are other things to be set up in the system. Parents leaving girls alone at home, women going to the market, leaving their daughters alone with their husbands who could be stepfathers of the children, their uncles and all of that. In many countries now, people are taking preventive measures as well. That does not give justification for anyone who engages in such act. But there has to be a lot of prevention done as well.
So Cllr, before you continue, because this rape thing is very serious. The gender minister blamed increasing reports of rape cases on slow judicial system. the VP blames the parents. So I see the issue as you list them, but what will you do when you become president? Because this this entrenched evil is the reports are increasing every day. So what will you do specifically to
Yeah, you
combat
know,
this?
like I said, I was part of the system. We created criminal code E as a special code to prosecute rape.
You can see
And
that's not enough.
yeah, it is not enough.
Okay.
So, and then we now have, I think, 2 more rape cases around the country. We just have to keep doing it. We have to keep uh, taking the cases to court and probably arrest the relatives who don't want to cooperate with the state to prosecute. Because we have one case, I was involved in it, and it involved a Lebanese man. When it was time for us to prosecute, when we sent for the girl, the girl and the family have moved. I think they said they went to Guinea. Nobody knew where they were. And the man was in jail for quite a while. And sadly, the law prohibits people being in jail for a protracted period. His defense counsels got him out, you know. So we have a serious problem that we have to deal with. And as someone who's strengthening the prosecution system, we'll work with the Ministry of Justice, Gender Ministry, and other people to find a way. There has to be a lot of education. Sometimes even when the rape perpetrator pregnant the girl, some families say, but who is going to take care of this child? Yes. And so maybe also the government has to set up a system whereby it takes care of children like that. You know, the social welfare program has to provide, because it becomes one of the concerns of the mothers. If the man go to jail for life, who's going to take care of this child? I mean, I'm just raising these issues. So we have to have a system where the victims are supported. Government provides a support system for the victim and the child, for example, that comes out of rape.
Thank you.
On the issue of foreign aid and corruption, we talk about the corruption issue, and I told you my prescription for combating corruption. I agree with the caller who talked about foreign aid. Foreign aid has never developed in a country. We cannot rely on foreign aid. We have to find a way to develop our country on the basis of the income generated from the country. That's why I talk about fighting corruption. That's the only way to have sufficient money so that we don't increase our dependency. I mean, one of the things I've said I would do is how up to now we are still exporting round logs. People are not doing that anymore. We have to engage in value addition to the things produced in our country to have money. There are many, many ways to make money. One of my plans is to promote tourism, but you cannot promote tourism in a country where there's lawlessness, where the judiciary does not work, where the police engages in selective enforcement of the law. Gambia makes millions and millions of dollars from tourism, and we have better ecology, better shoreline to do tourism in our country. 43% of the remaining tropical forest, for example, in Africa, in West Africa, is in Liberia. Mahogany and other exotic species. Some people, some tourists will just want to come and see those things. And there's money lying there that we need to make. So we need to develop our economy. One of them I've said before, decentralizing the economy by putting companies, giving incentive to companies that move out of Monrovia so that they can increase employment. When we do that, we generate more money to take care of, to provide protection for our people and seek their welfare and not rely on foreign aid. We say a little bit more of the health sector. Somebody asked that same question. Agriculture is quite important. According to FAO, out of every 100 bags of rice we eat, only 20 bags are produced in Liberia. So last year when I gave the Armed Forces Day, I would serve as keynote speaker for the Armed Forces Day Symposium. I recommended the government, and when I become president, I will do that the agricultural battalion of the Armed Forces of Liberia should be given machines, farming tools to jumpstart the production of rice for us. We have land, and they can do that in all of the countries. The government should give them money to do that, because cutlasses and hoe can no more feed Liberia, And so I have said that when I become president, I will have a policy whereby the agriculture, the CDA, Cooperative Development Agency, will form cooperatives all over the country, or will encourage people to form cooperatives. And to the cooperatives, will give farming machines so that we can have mechanized farming for the production of rice. Because that's the only thing we eat in Liberia, we are satisfied. You can eat yam. Once you have not eaten rice, you say you have not eaten food. So let's produce rice by having mechanized farming. And we can let young agricultural school graduates form themselves in the cooperative, and you give them machines on an interest-free loan basis that they can pay back 10 years, 15 years, to government, and then be self-sufficient in food production, because we are spending 80% of our foreign exchange on rice, and so we are food insecure today. The way the conflict is going on, if some of the rice supply exporting countries like India and other places are affected somehow, and somebody blockades them, we'll have problem. We'll have serious problem. It will be worse than the Civil War. People will be walking the street and dying because there will be no food. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor.
I think
just wrap that up.
Basically,
we don't want to keep you too long.
Somebody talk about Prince Johnson. I said Prince Johnson was the only one that fought war in Liberia. The war contract, they talk about it, not for Prince Johnson. Look, people have done work, and they show that there were massacres all over the country. If you go to Maryland, Prince Johnson did not go to Maryland. Prince Johnson did not even go to Grand Jeddah or Grand Cru, all these different places. And when you go there are massacre sites. Those people who massacre people there should be held to account. Prince Johnson did not go to Lofa. So I don't know why the focus is on Prince Johnson. So that person's question really focusing on Prince Johnson alone was unfair, because there are so many combatants all over the country. All of those who committed war crimes should be held accountable. And I think focusing on one man tends to undermine the process, because then people feel like, there's a need to defend that one person. So I think it's unfair to keep focusing on one person when it comes to war crime tribunal. All those who committed atrocities should be held to account, not one person. And people are all over the country.
Thank you, Councillor. I know we definitely want to have you back, so we can exhaust all the questions tonight. But this is what I want you to close with. With the 2022, we just passed the budget being signed into law by the president. National security, the National Security Agency, NSA, we have 11 million appropriated. The EPS that protects the president and his family alone is 10 million. Compare that to the National Police, 5 million. You're talking about corruption. This, to me, is not corruption, it's legal. Presidential Affairs Ministry, which I don't know how many employees they have, is 20 million. The entire education ministry, K to 12, colleges, universities, 92 million. And agriculture, we want to feed ourselves, is 7 million. Finance ministry alone is 152 million. It's like the whole country budget going to finance ministry. And the president's office is 5 million, vice president 4 million. Compare that to JFK, it's supposed to be the referral hospital, 6 million. You're emphasizing corruption, but this is not corruption. This is legal. Speaker of the House, 2 million. Pro temper, 2 million. The entire legislative body, that's 64 million. Compare that to the entire judiciary, is 18 million. DEA is 406,000. What can that do? So I'm looking at this and saying, well, you are emphasizing corruption, but this part, what will you say? It's being approved. This is law.
Yeah, but there's one aspect of bad governance is the money that is meant for the protection of the Liberian people and to seek their welfare is being taken by a few. I think that is a misapplication of entrusted property. We give the executive and the legislature our money to appropriate it properly for our security and for our welfare. And we know, given the function of those areas, in fact, that is what promotes corruption, because that the huge budget in areas that are not as important as other areas is a foundation for people to siphon that money and put it in their pockets. So, in my view, it's another form of corruption. It's another form of corruption. Why will you give some small money to agriculture when we are so food insecure, and give so much money to the Ministry of State? What does the Ministry of State do? The Ministry of State is just the secretarial staff of the president. Then the president has that big money in his office. Then the functional areas for services to the Liberian people is not giving much appropriation. That is bad governance.
Thank you.
You know, it is bad governance. So corruption comes in different forms. It's just like, for example, when the legislature decided to take $30,000 each and divide among themselves, it came to 3,090,000. They say, oh, that budget, that law. But there is nothing. Look, there's a general. The Constitution has one place where that one of them that you are reading about printing the Constitution. General principles governing for the governance of Liberia. And it talks about the citizens of the country having, enjoying from the resources of the country in an equal manner. That it doesn't show what is happening there, does not show that the citizens are going to equally benefit from the resources of the country, and so why it is not stealing directly, that type of appropriation is in violation of the Constitution. Article 7 of the Constitution says that a republic shall, consistent with the principle of individual freedom, social justice, ensuring this country, manage the national economy and the natural resources of Liberia in such manner as shall ensure the maximum feasible participation of Liberian citizens under conditions of equality as to advance the general welfare of the Liberian people and the economic development of Liberia. Does that kind of budget appropriation not violate this provision of the Constitution? It does, in my view. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Pastor Patient, we're drawing down the curtains. Let me hear your final comments or question, and then the counselor will close us with his. Before that, let me remind our listeners that tomorrow at 5, we're going to be on the radio in Liberia to discuss sexual and gender-based violence in Liberia. We have some women rights and female advocates here, including Councillor John Gabriel. We'll be right here live on FOL TV and also Prime FM 105.5 in Monrovia. Pastor Patient, we are closing. You can unmute, please, first. Unmute, Pastor Patient.
Sorry, I muted myself. Thank you, Councillor, for the exchange tonight. Lastly, I wanted to ask this quick question. Not, if you were president and you had an ambassador accredited to another country that was declared persona non grata, what will you do to that ambassador?
And your reference is Ambassador Kemenya, who was declared persona non grata.
Yes, yes.
Look, these are the things that honor the prestige.
Not ambassador, foreign minister.
Yeah, foreign minister, sir.
You spoil the country's name. I will dismiss you. Why should I keep you? Is that person indispensable to Liberia? It's an insult to think that one citizen is indispensable to the country, and the way you treat that citizen make the person feel that way. No. If your conduct causes you for our country to be disgraced in that manner, then you're not worthy of holding public office. I would dismiss you and have you replaced immediately. I would take no time, you see. But again, that's part of the problem that we face, because we elected someone who, is challenged in terms of holding that office. I've said in Liberia that when you give your 10-year-old child a 100-pound bag of rice to carry, you are engaged in child abuse. This is what the Liberian electors did.
Child labor.
Yeah, it's child abuse, because it clearly shows in every area. We have the only president in the whole world that is a football legend. Our Liberian now ashamed, even the supporters, some of whom are lying on me about taking care of police brutality, not ashamed that the man under George Weah's regime, FIFA, the Federation of Football, World Football Association, said that Liberia is unfit for the playing of international football in Liberia. And then when the African Cup of Nations was played last year, the only country that did not go to the African Cup of Nations was Liberia. Guinea won, Sierra Leone won, Ivory Coast won. Even Gambia went to the quarterfinal. So the question I ask Liberian voters is, if the man cannot succeed in his area of expertise, you expect him to succeed in building our health system, our agricultural system, the educational system, to get our infrastructure up? No. I mean, basically, if you fail in your area of expertise, I have no further expectation, and I'm not surprised by even the misapplication of our resources like this, putting it to where it is not necessary, where it cannot lift us up in clear violation of the constitutional provision that I just read.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councillor Gongloe. We are very happy that you were able to honor this invitation. We have more press people coming, but unfortunately...
And let me say, I should have kept my glasses on, because now you can see my eyes, right? When I take off the glasses, then the light, I should have. Next time, I will keep my glasses on so you can see my eyeballs and I see a mess, sleepy and tired.
Thank you. At this time, again, we want to thank you for coming. We want to thank your team and all those that did the work in the background for us to have this conversation. At this time, I'll give you 2 minutes to close, look in the camera, in the eyes of the Liberian people, and talk to them, sir.
In Liberia, they say, if you say you want to apply the new mat, you should show the old one. I have been an advocate for good governance in Liberia and respect for the rule of law and human rights. I have worked in government, and I have lived the life that I've advocated for. I've not been corrupt. And since corruption, in my view, is one thing that is keeping Liberia underdeveloped, I am talking to Liberian people. I'm appealing to them to support me to become president of Liberia and I will lay a firm foundation for good governance, change the direction of Liberia for sustained peace, progress, and prosperity, because I strongly believe that a better Liberia is possible if the right things are done. And it can only be done by a leader who has been tried and tested, and that's me. I want to call upon you to give me every support. In Liberia, they say Cllr Gongloe will go nowhere because he doesn't have money. So Liberian people who believe that I can make a difference should help me to get to power. And I can tell you that in a few months as president, you will see the difference. And right now, I'll be going from state to state to meet Liberians all over the United States, because this is a very influential population. You send remittances to Liberia, you can reduce the frequency of remittances if you elect someone who will make life livable and create capacity on the ground, so that you don't just stay and be stressed by everyday people calling you for money. That's one of the benefits of having a good leader in Liberia. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much. On that note, we say, whether you support Councillor Gongloe, Mr. Cummings, Mr. Bwaka, Mr. Weah, or me, we are all Liberians, and it is incumbent upon all of us to do whatever it takes to make our country the glorious land of liberty. That's why we end with the song always, we are all Liberians. Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians.